Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just responding to this debate on urgency, in fact, it's interesting that we're now 45 minutes into this debate and we constantly hear that they haven't had an opportunity to read this bill, but wasting 45 minutes talking about urgency. They had the briefing at 6:30 last night. They could have read... Not only did they get the briefing, Madam Speaker...
Okay. Silence.
It's been explained, I don't know how many times over and over again. The clauses that are changing today is including the position of a police public safety officer. So to say that they don't understand or they haven't had enough time, they've just wasted 45 minutes talking about this, and that's how hard it is. But it was back on the 18th of June, Madam Speaker, and it was interesting to hear from the member for Johnson saying that she didn't understand what this was all about, because on the 18th of June we made it very clear that this was aimed at reducing crime and restoring the Territory lifestyle. We made it very clear back on the 18th of June that the position of the Police Public Safety Officer stream would be created to better deploy frontline resources here in the Northern Territory. So to come in here today and suggest that there's very little information about this position is not only misleading, it just goes to show that they're either not listening to what's going on here in Parliament, because this has been spoken about not only here in Parliament, but it's been spoken about in the media for months. So back on the 18th of June, go back and have a look what the intention was of this legislation, because it seems to me that nobody over on that side wants to hear or listen. And I can understand why, after 8 years of failure by the Labor government when it came to making those important changes that would actually reduce crime here in the Territory. We know, listening to the young member for Daly and the member for Guajar, who failed to even put in any safe liquor laws after the cessation of Stronger Futures. We know how much they failed when it came to reducing crime. We're getting ahead, we're moving ahead, Madam Speaker. We were elected last year to reduce crime, rebuild the economy and restore Territory lifestyle. So that's what we're getting on with. That's what this legislation is all about. We made it very clear, the Chief Minister has made it very clear that this is all about creating a position of the Police Public Safety Officer. There's nothing more, there's nothing less. What it will do is create the position to allow the, firstly to include it in the legislation, and then to commence the important consultation with the Police Association to determine the conditions of service of that particular position. So once that goes into the legislation, we have strong, solid grounds to commence that negotiation. But moving forward, getting those police public safety officers in place will provide a consolidated response to some of the antisocial behaviour that we're seeing in public housing at the moment, bringing the transit officers into that fold, but also some of those police auxiliary positions. So what this will create is an opportunity to commence that negotiation and get on with the job of reducing crime here in the Northern Territory. So that's what it's all about. We've heard about scrutiny. We know that the former Labor government didn't have a scrutiny committee, and to hear all this debate about scrutiny, it's disingenuous for them to be standing up there talking about all of these things when they know after 8 years under that Labor government, not only was there no scrutiny, they didn't even have a scrutiny committee. So to come in here and try to paint this picture that the CLP is somehow doing things wrong, look, we're getting on with the job. This is urgent to get this get this position into the legislation so that we can move ahead and have those necessary industrial consultations with the Police Association. Everybody wants to see this position. We know that Labor is opposed to reducing crime. That's why they did nothing over the 8 years that they were in government. Absolutely nothing. They had the opportunity. We know that the Attorney-General failed to introduce legislation when...
Madam Speaker.
Yes, point of order, Chief Minister.
Standing Order 31, imputations and improper motives. I have consistently heard the opposition leader and other members of the opposition calling out liar, using the word liar in their contribution. It is highly unparliamentary and unacceptable up until this point in our parliament. I can't remember in my 13 years ever hearing that word being used as flippantly and carelessly and improperly as I'm hearing it now. I seek your ruling on this, Madam Speaker, because quite frankly, in my view, it is unparliamentary at a minimum and it offends the standing orders in the extreme.
Chief Minister, you are right. To accuse members in this parliament of lying is unparliamentary, but there's always been a certain amount of latitude given to the context in which it's said. It is absolutely disorderly and unacceptable to call someone a liar, but to say someone is lying has often gone through to the keeper. Look, I agree with your sentiment. It is unparliamentary to make those accusations across the chamber. I haven't pulled it up because over the years it has been allowed to some degree, but I will not allow interjections of that kind. If you want to say that someone is lying, get up on your feet and execute that argument. And the process normally is to suspend standing orders and argue basically through a censure motion that someone has lied, and you can use a debate to do that. But the Chief Minister is right. It is unparliamentary. I haven't ruled it out because there has always been this grey area, to my mind. That has always been my perspective when it comes to that type of behaviour. But absolutely, it is unparliamentary, and I would urge people to desist in using that language. Or, as I said, if you've of the mind that someone is lying, take the bold step and debate it through the suspension of standing orders, through other mechanisms at your disposal. So from this point on, I will be calling it as unparliamentary. I think I've been reluctant to do so because it often means that the debate that's been carried out, like at present, is interrupted and distracted by that. But everyone is on notice from this point on. And if the Leader of Government Business would like to complete his speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just in closing, after 8 years of Labor putting offenders first, we want to put victims first. We want to ensure that the unacceptable levels of antisocial behaviour are brought under control, and I urge that this legislation be passed today. Thank you.